But thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you, Senator Butler. Senator Reed of Rhode Island is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank the panel for their testimony. Ms. Sanchez-Adams and Mr. Breo, the Electronic Fund Transfer Act and its implementing rules cover transfers done through the HC system, where it is not clear if transfers done through wire transfer systems are covered. And I'm very concerned this gap or ambiguity leaves consumers unprotected against fraud for very large electronic payments they're doing for things like a down payment on a home. Ms. Sanchez, first, how widespread is the issue of wire fraud for consumers, and can you walk us through some common scams?
Yeah, so it is unfortunately exploding. I get 2 or 3 emails a week about it from consumer lawyers and sometimes even from consumers themselves. And there's always, news reports on this. Some of the common scams you have, one that is horrible is generally it's a tech support scam, and they gain access to somebody's laptop or computer and then gain access to their financial information without the consumer knowing, and then they get onto their bank account and wire transfer and do a wire transfer to a crypto account. And then, the consumer is out of luck, even though state law says that consumers should be not held liable for unauthorized wire transfers. There's all of these caveats. If there was a security procedure in place, if the consumer agreed to it in the account agreement, then, generally the banks will say, sorry, you either it was sent out and there was a security procedure that was used, so we can't help you, or if you by chance gave your account information to someone, it would be protected under the EFTA, but not under the UCC.
And Mr. Breo, your comments.
Yes, certainly in addition to the type of scams that Ms. Sanchez-Adams discussed, we see this where scammers get in between consumers during a real estate transaction. For example, when you're sending money to a title agent, a scammer may impersonate the recipient of those funds in order to disrupt that transaction. And I think certainly one of the things that all of these transactions have in common, whether we're talking about ACH or peer-to-peer or gift cards to some extent, is that the money is transferred very quickly, nearly instantaneously. In fact, that's why it's so attractive to the scammers. So I think as part of the solutions that you consider in this is, do we need to slow down some of those transactions? Is the benefit we're getting from instantaneous payments that are oftentimes irreversible, even after fraud is discovered, are those benefits outweighed by the cost to consumers of the fraud that is occurring on these systems?
Now, can the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau deal with these issues under current law, or do we have to pass additional legislation to try to address these scams?
So the CFPB does have a tremendous amount of authority to start to address some of these scams, and they are exercising it. But I would say there is more that could be done. We discussed, particularly in my testimony, the Protecting Consumers from Payment Scams Act, which would redefine what is an unauthorized transaction to include these kinds of induced fraud, or also known as authorized push payments, as covered under EFTA. So certainly that is one area where the CFPB could help this. This committee could help the CFPB do its job even better.
Ms. Sanchez-Adams, your solutions?
Yes, the CFPB has authority under Regulation E or the EFTA to do rulemaking. So through rulemaking, they could clarify, there was the exemption to wire transfers that the Federal Reserve Board said included the FedWire chips, and so they could change that after doing rulemaking, open comment, and all of that. They can clarify things like what fits under errors, because they can create additional errors under the EFTA, so they could do that through rulemaking.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you all for your testimony today. Mr. Chairman, I will yield.
Senator Vance from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to our 3 witnesses for being here. I wanted to ask a question to